Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well. Before I begin and you'd like to use OCD Recovery's coaching services, please message phil@ocdrecovery.com and he'll get back to you as quick as he can. So yeah, I wanted to speak a little bit about demands and preferences and how these can work in the OCD recovery journey and how they can get us into trouble. So the difference with demands and preferences, right? So with demands, they're rigid, right? It's all or nothing, black and white. Necessitating, which is obviously a word sort of coined by Albert Ellis, and yeah, it's literally all or nothing. This one condition in your life must be met under all circumstances, right? And then in contrast to preferences, a little bit more flexible. So it's coming from the lines of, well, yeah, I'd like that to happen, but if it doesn't, then it's not the end of the world. And obviously with those two, right, demands and preferences, having such sort of rigorous, rigid demands, that adopting these in life and in your recovery journey, right, they're just going to make you miserable. They're going to make you miserable because, say for example, I said to myself, it must be sunny tomorrow. It absolutely must be sunny tomorrow because I'm going on, because I don't know, I've got my friends coming around, so it must be sunny. If you're holding that belief, right, so rigidly with no wiggle room, you're going to be pretty annoyed and upset when that demand doesn't be met, or when that demand isn't met. And it's like, when you have these demands, we almost think like we have some divine right to it happening. It's almost like we think that the universe owes us this thing to happen just because we really want it so terribly bad. But you know, obviously with OCD, right, we have to think a bit more scientifically, right? So having these demands, these demands are just not always going to be met, right? So, you know, for example, I live in England, right? I can probably guarantee that it's not going to be sunny tomorrow. And in terms of your OCD, right? So say you've got OCD, say you're a year into the recovery journey, right? The chances are, if you're demanding that you have to be better right this second, or you're demanding not to be anxious, that's gonna put you into a pretty bad spot, because not only is it unrealistic, when you actually do feel anxious, which is obviously very likely, you're just going to be reacting to that anxiety in a really unhealthy way, and just keep refueling that anxiety and keeping on like pumping it around your body, because you're so rigid, you're so incessant that you mustn't experience that sensation, that it's only going to, you know, add more fuel to the fire, which is obviously how OCD works. You know, it's a bit of a paradox in a way. So yeah, when you're so like rigid on those demands, you're obviously going to get yourself into trouble, right? You're not okay with not having the outcome that you think you should have, and that's the crux of it. So in contrast then with preferences, right, when you have a preference for something, so say using that example again, I'd prefer if it was sunny tomorrow because I'm seeing my friends. However, there's a but. If it's not, then I can stand it. And that's the way you want to sort of look at your beliefs, and your OCD and your life in general. You have a preference for something. You'd like for something to happen in an ideal world. However, you know that because we live in such an imperfect world and we're fallible humans, those preferences aren't always going to be met under every circumstance, right? So that flexibility that preferences give you, it just means that when you inevitably don't get the thing that you're after, you're going to be a lot more in peace with that, and you're going to be a lot more okay with that. I'm not saying that you'd like it. I'm not saying that. So going back to the anxiety example, you'd prefer not to be anxious, but if you are, then you are. Obviously, you're not going to like being anxious because it's very uncomfortable. But when you just change that sort of rigid demand just into a preference and make it a bit more loose, and all the cogs, as Rob says, then you're not going to be berating yourself and pounding your nervous system with more resistance, because you know that scientifically there's no reason why that preference should be met. And you know, Albert Ellis is obviously a massive advocate of having preferences over demands, right? You know, when we have these really rigid demands, we're just going to be miserable, and it makes us overlook the reality of our situation. Preferences, they're scientific and they actually don't overlook the reality of our life and the reality of the world, which is, you know, very imperfect and not always going to meet our demands. So yeah, when you really sort of look at why you must get something and you actually greet it with sort of more flexible thinking and preferences, then, you know, you're gradually gonna turn down the response or the reaction that you're having to that, and just going forward it's going to be a lot more healthier for you in your recovery journey. So yeah, I just thought I'd do a quick video on that today, guys. So yeah, thank you, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.